Hello and good day. This is the BibleBard. A bard is a storyteller who recites traditional texts associated with a particular oral tradition, and I'm here to recite and to amplify what the literature of the Bible says about who is God and who are human beings. Here's the place we're at today. In this lesson, we're looking at the thought that God is not human. This is such an important idea. Listen to what the Bible says about this idea. In Numbers 23, verse 19, the text reads, quote, God is not a man, unquote. In Hosea chapter 2, verse 9, the text reads or states, quote, for I am God and not man, unquote. And in the book of John in the New Testament, chapter 4, verse 24, the text states, quote, God is a spirit, unquote. These three statements are two negative and one positive and describe what God isn't and what he is. Here's the thought. It says so in the original languages, and pick any translation. It says the same thing. God is different from human beings. How is he different? He is spirit. What does it mean to be spirit? Well, we'll come to that later. What's important here in our inductive method is that the Bible teaches that God is not a human person. If God is not human, what is he? The answer the Bible gives, he is spirit. At this moment, that's all we know. But by taking other clear statements, as clear as these, that provide further definition and amplification, we're going to build up an understanding of who the Bible's God is and what he, she, or it is like. This is, as I just mentioned, an inductive rather than a deductive approach. If you know the difference between deductive and inductive thinking, you'll understand that religions often use a deductive approach. They begin with accepted premises and try to reason from those premises to new conclusions. Our approach is the opposite. The BibleBard is using an inductive method. We're going to gather and build up discrete pieces of information about a Bible topic using the Bible verses themselves as data until we've collected enough content to hazard some conclusion. In our case, instead of starting with someone's idea of who God is, we are looking at a collection of statements from the Bible and using them to build up a picture of who the Bible says God is. Some who've been taught by denomination might quickly add, well, wasn't Jesus a human person? And doesn't Christianity teach he was God? This is not the place yet to jump into complicated superstructures before we have a solid foundation. The BibleBard is interested in simplicity and clarity. Can anyone argue that the Bible teaches in the text I've just read that God is not man, that God is not a human being, that God is a spirit? No one can argue that the texts say something different because they don't. That's how the passage describes God. He's not human, but he is a spirit. Well, how does that help to begin with just what the Bible teaches here? Well, the very first thing we need to do with an inductive approach is set aside our own ideas. We're not trying to discover what our grandfather may have told us. We're not trying to give our opinion or reference our ideas. We're trying to discover only what the Bible itself says. We're searching for ideas from a settled text, not trying to come up with new text and new ideas on our own. Number two, this first few passages tell us that the Bible's God is not man-shaped, nor does the Bible's God act because of man-shaped passion, human understanding, or human circumstances. God is not man. By the way, for those of you hung up on gender, you should get over it. God is a spirit. Spirit is neither male nor female. God is not human. When these texts were written down thousands of years ago, those writing selected male pronouns to refer to God, but also gave us literary descriptions of God with female attributes, and sometimes even metaphors describing God with animal attributes. Remember, we need to use literary methods of analysis to understand the text. We can't just say it's all patriarchy and think that answers anything. We must consider all the elements of writing and style that any author employs to tell any story. But we need to be fair to the text. The authors who wrote down these ideas were human beings, but they were not from our culture. We connect to their words because of our shared humanity, not because we herd sheep or fight wars by the rules they follow. So let's set this whole issue to the side. Number 3, does the Bible tell us how God is not like man? Yes, but let's be cautious. The text in this lesson only assert a fundamental difference. There is humanity and there is divinity. These two categories of being are, in their natures, different from each other. The one is not the other. How that difference is understood and what distinctions are made between them right now, because it's an inductive method, we don't know yet. But we will find out, and that's the purpose of the BibleBard podcast, to build up and bring out texts from the Bible as data, and as we add more and more, we build up a picture of God and humankind. This is the way the BibleBard works. Brief recitations, closely focused, no distractions, no rabbit trails. Send the BibleBard any questions or remarks you care to offer to BibleBardUS@gmail.com. Glad to hear from you. Thanks in advance for following and sharing content from the BibleBard community. Thanks for listening.